Already back and getting ready to go for match number 2 of the day. We have blitzchung versus Glory, and I think I feel like this once a meta settles, but the two big decks going against each other. I know there's 3 with Mage as well, but for right now, like Bomb Warrior going up against whatever Rogue, because there are so many slightly different builds of it. It's pretty exciting for me because I feel like we see so many different players playing matchups that are the same matchup, but in so many different ways. What do you think about this matchup specifically?
I think, well, first of all, to your point of the 3 main decks and how they interact with each other, I first of all just want to say that in Specialist, I feel like as much as everyone in the Hearthstone community loves to have a bit of a gripe every now and then,
only a bit.
Only a little bit.
The fact that
all 3 of these matchups are so up for debate and so close it's fantastic. It makes it such a delight to cast these games, because even though it can feel when you're in the match like, you know, there was little a player could have done, these are all pretty close matchups, I would argue, with Mage, Warrior, and Rogue, and even Hunter thrown into the mix as well. If we compare it to some of the combo decks of last meta, I feel like this is a fantastic meta to be casting these specialist games. With respect to Warrior versus Rogue, I'm still of the opinion that Warrior is slightly in the lead up against the Rogue. I think that their ability to remove at all points of the game and apply pressure just is a little bit too strong, even when you face that up against the value that Rogue can throw down.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out. We can check the player lists now and let's see what is going on. Let's go to blitzchung's Warrior, and he is, as we mentioned yesterday, playing the quad 4 drop, which you have a liking for, at least against Rogue, right?
The quad 1 drop.
The quad 1 drop, yeah, the 4-4-4-4. I was just
He's also playing a quad 4 drop, so you're not wrong.
Yeah, sometimes I do get away with saying stupid things. But yes, sorry, the quad 1 drop with the double Town Crier and the double Attorney Rover.
I like it a lot. I think it's obviously very, very strong against Rogue, and I think it's underrated against a lot of the other decks as well. Yeah, he does have to cut some pretty key cards, like a shield block is pretty miserable to be getting rid of, I think, given that it upgrades your shield slams and again gets you that cycle, which can be so crucial to find your Dr. Booms, plural. But Weapons Project more than makes up for the lack of armor that taking out a shield block gets rid of. And it also just makes you a little bit stronger against the weapons that Rogue can throw down, which, taking a look at Glory's list, is going to be very crucial, because this is not the more classic Burgle Vendetta package that comes in Rogue. This is a much more of an aggressive build.
It really is, yeah. And it continues to baffle me a little bit. I'm no Rogue specialist at all, but you look at this build, yet it still has Novice Engineer and Cable Rats in it. Like, Cable Rats, you know, it's a good card because it generates Lackeys, of course, would never argue that, but it has 2 very low impact 2-drops in terms of the stats on the minions.
Yeah.
In a deck that you're running fairly aggressive cards like Life Drinker, Spear of the Shark can be both value and aggressive, but then like the Waggle Picks, Leroy's, and just trying to get off to a much more aggressive opening start. And it's just a funny balancing act that Rogue can do, that it can just play almost any 30 Rogue cards and it's still going to do, or have the ability to do the same thing.
Yeah, from Glory yesterday, it's got to be honest, this deck was looking not all too powerful in its build, and primarily very weak in its play. I think Glory yesterday showed an outlier of a performance, where generally I've liked a lot of what I've seen from him in Grandmasters. He was at 7-3 yesterday. He was doing something right to get up there, but he kind of just fell apart yesterday. However, I think today, up against blitzchung, even though blitzchung has a pretty well-teched anti-rogue build of the Warrior, especially considering Glory can switch over to his anti-Warrior deck in the 2nd and maybe 3rd game, I think Glory is still in with a very good spot if he can get his head in the game.
Yeah, and I think he will. I think, you know,
so too.
we've been casting Glory for a long time, you know, not just this year, but previous years as well in the playoffs and such. And Glory's just been a pretty solid player, always up there in the Asia-Pacific top names over the past few years. But in general, I think everyone has a blip and an odd day. I have more than most myself, actually. So
my life's a blip.
Yeah. Same. That's why we're on the desk. But I think Glory will be able to do well. I do think, though, that blitzchung this week, because he beat the Mirror yesterday and now he has Rogue with his specific build, I think he's in for a very good week. His overall score is not fantastic at, I think, 4 and 7 now.
Yes.
But I think with him beating the Mirror, like I said yesterday, and now having this Rogue, it's a very good week for him to go 2-0, and that will make up some of the lacking results that I think a bit of a surprise me. I thought I had pegged blitzchung to do very, very well this season, and only at 4 and 7 so far. Could move up to 5 and 7 though.
Yeah, I mean, even if we look at the way the brackets shake out, like, he could get up to 7-7 in the absolute best case scenario, which would put him on a tie with Glory, who he's up against here. So maybe with tiebreakers he could have a chance. But like this is getting very unlikely. Yeah, exactly. So for blitzchung, it's really just about proving, as for a lot of players here, that he deserves his spot.
Yeah, and you see the Rover go down now, and there's the 1-drops, which is going to look pretty good, especially because although he doesn't have the a 3 to go into early, the coin 4/4 looks pretty nice. You don't even have to swing the wrench caliber because Glory does not play any weapon removal at all instead.
Super powerful. Coin 4/4/5 now with the dynamatic as well. Very nice curve for blitzchung. And a very lacking curve for Glory as well, it's got to be said. The Spirit of the Shark here is looking miserable.
It's weird, right? So if you're blitzchung, do you ever consider not coining a 4 to have the ability to coin the dynamatic?
That's interesting.
Because one of the cards you are afraid of is Shark. Shark's not often played on curve unless the hand is nutty, but still, like, is equipping the weapon and maybe passing worth it versus having that flexibility for dynamatic?
Yeah. So how do the turns shake out? I mean, on turn 4, Glory's options, given that he's not playing the Hench Clan Burglars, is Spirit of the Shark, Life Drink, or Waggle Pick if he wants to play on curve. Against which like you said, Spirit of the Shark, you want to save the dynamatic to kill that up as quickly as possible. Against the other two, though, curving out 4/4 would work pretty well, I think, just because it spends the most amount of mana.
Yeah. Ooh. Gonna go for shield slamming into the armor up. Not even playing the Town Crier. That is
I find that a little
interesting.
surprising.
Well, the Town Crier at least takes a dagger charge and a 1/1 to kill off, right?
Right, and it draws you a card.
Yeah, I mean,
which could be very, very good.
Especially when it's a 50-50 chance to get Ziliax.
Yes.
Glory, though, not going to just, like I said, with the Shark, you don't really want to play it on 4 unless your hand is, like, going to go nuts the turn after.
Well, I mean, I think interestingly enough, with this interaction you brought up, I think is actually very, very interesting, is that if we had seen coin 4-drop from blitzchung, I think Glory would have felt much more able to go with the Shark, because he knows coin into dynamatic is not available.
I guess with the Novice Engineer pickup, you're drawing 2 cards there, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think if he just had Life Drinker and a spell, then he probably wouldn't have gone, yes, 6 damage early game.
Sorry, I was factoring in the Novice Engineer. That definitely makes it more than acceptable on its own.
Well, nothing too crazy to write home about here for Glory. I imagine outside of double 2-drop and see what the lackey is, there's not much else to really do.
I really don't like playing the double 2-drop.
I think he has to play one of them.
Does he have to? Like,
well, if you're waiting to get value from Shark, then you are passing for 2 turns.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit too bad.
That is very scary as far as I'm concerned. But maybe I'm not valuing the value that you can actually get from it in general. And if the Shark comes down into a natural turn 5, that it means it will 100% be dead to dynamatic. There is not the usual sort of sideways bodyguard of a miscreant next to that Spirit of the Shark to defend it, which means that's just dead.
Yeah, I mean, blitzchung does not have to go for the dynamatic, but I think he's realizing Glory's play here is not. This is not a happy Shark. This is a sad Shark that Glory is throwing down. So getting rid of it here, I think, would be pretty high priority for blitzchung.
And also, you know, playing on curve, he could even coin out a 1-drop if he really wanted at this point.
He could.
Like the coin, I feel like in Bomb Warrior gets less and less now after turn 5. Because outside of coining into Boom exactly, there's not many things you really need to coin into.
Things like Warpath is one of the big ones as well, getting up from the odd to the even tiers.
But I guess coining a 1-drop now would make you not need a Warpath as much, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I like this.
Just playing for the tempo as much as possible. Especially as next turn, it could just be Town Crier Ziliax.
Right.
Even saving the swing for both a better target and the Elec. I think blitzchung is just working
look
out
at the
very
potential
nicely.
value Glory could have had with the Shadow Step if that Spirit of the Shark lived.
I mean,
or even if he didn't play it.
Yeah, it's worked out terribly in like every metric for Glory because he didn't play the Shark on 4, which it still would have died, but he he felt he had to play it on turn 5 anyway. And I think the thing is, like, I'm not really sure what Glory was expecting to happen because when he played the Life Drinker on turn 4, I think that always dies. Like, given that on the way, a Town Cry hadn't been played at that point.
But he played it into the weapon, right?
The weapon was played in response.
Oh, sorry, yeah, because he didn't coin. He didn't
right.
coin,
So maybe he expected the Life Drinker to live, which is what Glory was hoping for. But I think against all the, the 2 Wrench Calibers, the 2 Militia Commanders, and the Ziliacs, like, Glory has to expect that thing to die. So I wonder if the play from Glory was just to throw it down on turn 4 and say, if you have the Dynamatic, I'm not really winning this game anyway, because he still left himself very vulnerable to it on the following turn.
Play a Novice Engineer that turn, and then just go Shark into the round, or the other way around, whatever, and just say, you know what, my hand's not fantastic to get tons of value from this Shark, but I will get a lot of value from this Shark.
And I think that's the thing from Glory, is that either way, whether he plays it on turn 4 or turn 5, he's taking a risk. He's saying, you can't have the Dynamatic or I'm in a bad position. And so you may as well do it sooner, first of all because he's less likely to have it because he draws one less card, but also just because it plays out his mana better. Like, he can just go for the draw sooner.
Now double Town Cry is going to draw the 2 Rush minions that are left in Blitzchung's deck, so now Glory will have full information on half of Blitzchung's hand.
Right.
Because there's nothing to think about.
Right, I mean...
Oh, okay, I say full information. He won't have full information because he doesn't know the other cards that Militia Commander, but he'll know...
He has good information.
Yeah, he'll know there's 2 Rushes in hand.
And I guess that's a good thing to talk about, is that we have been focusing mostly on Glory's play so far, because I feel like Blitzchung, I mean, he's had a good hand. I don't think he's made any slip-ups. Like, the real decision point for him was Shield Slam on the Snip Snap, which I think was actually pretty smart, because I think one of the main things he was weak to was a big Spirit of the Shark play, and he played around that very well.
And also the not coining the 4-drop.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Sorry, it was the same turn. Yeah. So, yeah, in conjunction with having the ability to coin a 4-drop or not.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And now, with that Shark gone and with the Novice Engineer and the Cable Rat being played, and this is the outcome in the hand, it doesn't feel great, does it? Especially because you got the Goblin Lackey.
Glory kind of needed High Sparrow and Togwaggle there to really have a shot.
Or just a better Lackey.
That's also true.
Like, Ethereal would have been really good.
Yeah, I mean, Goblin was pretty obviously the worst one here, I think. As it oft is.
Glory can't even really compete on board this turn.
It's interesting to think that with them saying that they are likely to print more lackey-generating cards in the upcoming expansions, if another class other than Rogue becomes the premium lackey class, Goblin Lackey could become one of the best ones, because Rogue generally plays small minions, which means the Rush doesn't get as much value. But if it's like Warlock with a kind of handlock style play or something, then maybe Goblin Lackey... Yeah, exactly. Lackey might just become the best one. Or Goblin Lackey might become the best one.
What's weirder to me is if they print more lackeys, then it becomes even swingier, right? Because if they have more lackeys, then the pool's bigger, which means getting the one you need is harder. Oh. But when you do get the one you need...
Oh, I interpreted it as they're going to make more cards that produce lackeys.
I think they're also making more lackeys.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
I think so. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going off hearsay and official Blizzard press releases.
Oh, yeah.
Which we haven't read very well.
And now Glory's just under so much threat, and the Waggle pick, I would say actually at this point in the game, normally a solid pickup if the game has gone okay for Rogue, because this is the point where you want to actually pile on the pressure and maybe finish the game, right? Which Waggle pick does a great job of doing. But now it's like, okay, you can kill the allies, you've taken 3 more damage. You can technically clear this board and get some board control. But look at the hand, prep sap. I think Glory wants to prep sap himself at this point.
I don't think he'd... I mean, it's one of his better options, I think it's fair to say at this point. However, shout out to the microbots there, which have attacked face every single turn since turn 3.
That's some good damage.
The real players in this matchup, even though it makes literally no difference. I mean, it's just Togwaggle. Like, for Glory there, he obviously couldn't play the Goblin Lackey because his only out here is either Myra's, which he does run, or more likely High Sparrow. Right. So I like his play.
Dude.
Okay.
Prep that Miscreant. It's so funny the amount of times Prep's used as a 0 mana activate combo. That's it.
Such a sorry shadow form of Glory. Glory.
I get it.
So what's the best sequencing here? Like Ethereal Lackey?
I think you Ethereal Lackey
Probably,
first because the
yeah.
prep's already live.
Good
And
point.
you might have a spell that you won't be able to cast if you go Miscreant as well.
It's probably the Shadow Step. Like, obviously Violet Haze could find him Rotten Apple-bound, or I don't even know, some other kind
But
of
also
form.
finding Myra's, which Myra Rot Spring, should I say, which sucks.
Yes, it does.
That's what I mean. There's a lot of actual
There's a
like
lot of cards
bad death rattle minions that you
Yes.
could get at this point that do nothing. Oh, okay. Glory's on the air.
On the aggressive.
the-
The
yeah.
counter-attack is real.
It's just gonna wait 2 hours for the snake to go in. I just imagine Glory walking, you know, in dodgeball when they do the cobra thing. Just comes in like that. I got this. Oh, he can attack now as well. That minion's OP.
Yes. As, you know, to be fair,
Never mind.
Blitzchung was running out of value.
And then just threw a Dr. Boom at Glory's face. Even got the dudes.
Even the dudes, for the love of... Please, won't somebody please think of the children?
I was wondering where you were going with that, Derek. So we are live.
We are live, but Glory is not alive for much longer.
And the problem is, when Blitzchung could have played Ziliax about 100 times by now and hasn't needed to,
Yeah.
you know
okay.
there's a problem.
Okay, here we go.
Toggers.
That's a card.
He even has Witchy Laggy to evolve it as well.
Yes, the absolute Tog champion. So he goes for this, and he goes for Wand. Like, is there any... Like, he needs to go for a miracle outcome. And he thinks that Zarog's
Whoa.
Crown is the way to do that. I was expecting Wand.
Nosdalmu put
Let's
the
go.
time pressure on
Let's
Blitzchung.
go.
The really funny thing, so I conjured into this the other day when I was playing Mage. The
Yeah.
best thing is, unless they have just lethal to kill you, they have to kill both before the timer stops. And that's actually a lot of pressure.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Because if he like brawls and one lives,
Yeah.
he won't have the time to do anything
he's,
about it.
He's just got to go. Like,
Yeah.
right now, he's got to play as quick as he can. I think that means Brawl gains the armor first,
Just
and he
go.
hopes that a Nosdormu does not survive.
If Glory wins this game off the back of 2 Nosdalmus, that'll be insane.
Okay, that's a Nosdormu surviving. Glory is not out quite yet. He's getting closer, but he's alive.
Yeah.
He's alive at 1.
Dramatic pause. But now Glory has to go quick himself. Cold Blood, go face. Let's go.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh.
He's just running out of time. The room's burning too
Cold
quick.
Blood, go face.
Go.
Oh, I love that.
He missed everything.
Oh no! And he's not dead. He's the armor.
He's alive at 1.
Oh no!
It's a disaster for Glory.
The double-edged sword that is Nosdormu. The problem is, what spell do you want to discover? It doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
discovered Cold Blood aside, go face, ship it, done. And now, I don't know what he can do to heal. He might have to trade now. Oh, he's just going to evolve, okay.
Glory was stuck in this eternal hell.
Oh, he can like it straight away. Okay, he's not going to. But now can he even survive?
Yes,
Yeah, he can kill off.
he can. He can kill it off. He's alive at 1.
Wait, what? What's even this lackey? Oh, okay. Oh, he's going real big.
He's going ham.
Okay, if Glory still wins this game, my mind is blown.
That would be unbelievable.
Let's just bomb.
I mean, it could happen, right? There's still a bomb in the deck, I think, with all the Elec nonsense that's occurred. But he is almost threatening lethal. Even with all this in play, it's not quite there.
What?
Is it the trip snip?
Sounds like something I never want to happen to me.
Trust me, you don't.
So it's 34 damage on board, right?
Yes,
Right
so he
now.
would be dead to Leroy.
I mean, exactly Leroy Dagger would have gotten him.
Yes. Okay, this is fine, right? Yeah, because I mean, if he doesn't think Warpath will get better, he would have floated 2 mana otherwise. So I think, yeah, this is fine, actually. I like this play.
It's
Spirit of the Shark is just game. He
Whoa.
throws it down. And despite having 30 attack on the board at the end of the game, it still wasn't good enough.
I don't know. They were... The fact that Glory got so close after messing up that badly,
Yeah.
and I'd say... So there is limited time pressure on Nozdormu. When you need to make your own turn, it is difficult, right? I'm not saying it's not. But if you generate something, you need to do stuff that doesn't give you options and give you discovers, because discovers take time that you do not have if Nozdormu's going. Or just swing Nozdormu first, get the damage in, and then try and mess around with stuff. But Glory missing that damage would have won, right? If he'd pushed the extra damage from Nozdormu, he missed a whole attack, right?
Would he have won?
Well, you said Leroy would have got him lethal. He
Yes.
pushed 8.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
wait,
but
but he did clear the minions.
He played
Would
around
it be...
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe not.
I mean,
Anyway.
it would have been much closer, right? Because it wasn't just the Nozdormu hit he missed, it was a Cold Blood that he missed as well.
Right.
Like, Glory missed a lot of
like
stuff on
an
that
extra
turn.
swing of Cold Blood maybe if the minion lives as well.
And like, Nozdormu is fickle at the best of times. Like, it always feels to me like it's less than 15 seconds when I get it on my side of the board. But I mean, for Glory there, it was close, and he gave it an extremely valiant effort.
Yeah, it was a nutty game, #1, but blitzchung did take it, even though he was probably getting a bit of a sweat on himself once those Nozdormus came out, and there was no way to deal that 1 extra damage. That's only game #1. We gotta let the players just relax for a minute while they get ready for game #2. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.
The cards show me a tinker, so clever, but kind of a stinker. In a storm that's a raging, sits the last one I'm paging, a truly unusual thinker. All bots are now gonna go boom, but still, you shouldn't assume that I've made this selection on my own direction. No, indeed, let's be clear. I have brought you all here, and now you're all in. It is time to begin. So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mocked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist, and each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No fisting it. I'm saying what you want to do. Let me hear it. We'll come together so we can dismantle. Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league. Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
We've recovered from the craziness that was Game 1 between blitzchung and Glory. And Glory just, I won't say to the same extent as yesterday in terms of messing up, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
But there was pressure on from the Nosdormus, but still, he messed up.
Right.
And it didn't help with him losing the game. So
I mean, yeah, I think that was an entirely different beast from what we
Yes.
saw yesterday, because it was, I think, even if he played as quick as it was possible to, he actually would have struggled to get in every action he wanted to that game. Because I mean, with Rogue, we see players struggle with the full turn time, right?
Right, never
very
mind.
consistently
Nosdormus.
because of all the lackey generation that's a part of it. And I mean, it gets into that situation where the best play to make was probably not the best play, because you just need to do something.
Yeah,
like,
I think
because if you try and make the best play, you end up suffering more because you can't do what you need to do.
it's when under rope pressure, you have to create a priority of actions, right?
Yeah.
And priority should always be damage,
Yeah.
almost all the time, especially in a matchup like that. But anyway, let's get on to game number 2, and let's check out what deck Glory has switched to, because blitzchung has stayed on his primary, and Glory's moved to secondary. And we spoke about it at the start of the show. This is, I feel, one of the more powerful secondary/tertiary decks that have been made in Grandmasters so far. And it is the secondary deck for Glory, double Copper Tail, double Water Gear, and it can, and not really losing anything in this matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if I quite agree. I think the cards he's putting in, it all makes a lot of sense. It's mechs, it's good against Warrior. We've established that at this point. What he's taking out, I think, is the interesting part, because a lot of players have been going for Waggle Pick, taking out of their secondary decks for the Rogue. As we can see, one coming out in the tertiary deck, because a lot of the decks either have weapon removal in them, or they substitute in weapon removal in the anti-Rogue builds. And as we can see, blitzchung has the one copy of Weapons Project. He has the Harrison Jones as well. So the Waggle picks may not be that strong, but by the same metric, I've criticized players in previous weeks for taking out too much damage from their Rogue decks in their secondary and tertiary decks.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I think, I can't remember, it might have been Flurry we saw last week with his Rogue, where he substituted out loads of damage from his Rogue deck, and it meant that his Togwaggles, even though he had Togwaggle scheme in there, didn't really do anything, because the only way he was winning was from generating these big minions.
Right.
And if you don't hit the big legendary dragons at the top end, you're really struggling to actually get the damage through in order to close out the game.
And one thing I do like about overall is your opponent can't tech for everything when they submit their deck, right?
True.
So as we can see from blitzchung, he has a pretty solid main list, which is good against Rogue and has some weapon removal.
Yeah.
But he couldn't change, right? His second list is for Mage, his third list is for the Mirror.
Oh,
so
yeah. He had to stick.
This is effectively his anti-Rogue list.
Yes.
And if that's the primary deck, then there are some flexibility, lack of flexibility that he has, because you also can't just lose to other things because you've over-teched it.
One thing that players also struggle to tech against is a 3-mana 8/8 or a 3-mana 10/10 for that matter, even. On turn 2, perhaps.
Prep's such a weird card now. It's just a 0-cost player card.
Although he probably holds off for a turn.
Really?
I mean,
I'm pressing those 3 0 costs
Fair
and then
enough.
hitting Van Cleave. What does he do? Like, this is how you just snipe a game, right?
Yeah, I guess so, I guess so. I mean, I was looking at like the best case scenario, right? Because if he goes Cable Rat and hits a the spell lackey off of that, then he can go for prep in combination with the spell he discovers off of it, which would have been insane. But I guess with this Edwin here, an 8/8 is very likely to be good enough.
And
Just because like it could have been a 10/10 on the next turn as well,
Right.
maybe even a 12/12 if he had hit that spell lucky.
The problem is if he doesn't, I guess, is the big issue,
I mean,
right?
it was still reasonable. He still would have made a 10/10 on turn 3 as opposed to an 8/8 on turn 2. I think it's debatable which is better, but this is probably the way to go about it.
The drawback and the positive of your plan was the Militia Commander now kills the Van Cleave,
It does.
and that's it. Van Cleave kills 2 minions and deals 8 damage to face, which is good, but it dies. We can see that blitzchung does not have access to the Militia Commander, and
does not.
this Van Cleave is going to have a race against bombs and probably win.
There's some pretty strong counterplay for blitzchung in the form of Warpath, I think, primarily, because obviously being able to triple activate the Eternium Rover is pretty nuts, whilst also clearing up most of the board. Especially as Glory at the moment does not have any ability to clear off most of these minions, unless we were to see like double trade into the Clockwork Goblin with the 1/1s and then Dagger, or a lucky generation off of the evil Cable Rat. it's looking like blitzchung will be able to stabilize, and Glory therefore needs to wonder, how do I come back in this game after he's cleared off this board? Which, I mean, even if he couldn't see blitzchung's hand, he would be wondering that, because if blitzchung can't clear the Edwin, he just wins anyway.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's why you do the Edwin play, right?
Yes.
You just, if it doesn't get answered, you win the game, and that's just it. And you can see now the kind of level he's going to him, like you said, clearing off the minion that could provide the most problems of just one, being clearable, and two, it actually would do more damage to Van Cleef and make Van Cleef potentially die. But also just pushing the damage with Cleef, not trading, saying, you know, this is just so much damage, I'm going to keep pushing phase.
Yep.
And with the Myras in hand, it means that if Glory really wants, he can just press Myra's next turn and say, I'll probably draw some damage.
I also, I really like the triple trade into the Clockwork Goblin specifically over the Rover, just because it means that you're not dying to Warpath. It makes Ziliax not a clear as well. It just works in a lot of very, very nice ways.
So one thing that I feel isn't talked about tons is just the lack of Eviscerate in Rogues now, because that was a lot of damage from hand that you could pump out not too long ago, and because there's no Eviscerates, you can't exactly say Myras and then go card Evis, and then plus whatever minions you've got on board. Like, you are limited a little bit more now.
It's true.
In the current
I mean,
builds.
a lot of players still like the Eviscerate. It's far from disappeared completely.
Or he's like, yep, boom!
He knows exactly where this Edwin is headed, which is face every single turn. And now for blitzchung, even with these minions sticking around, is this a full? This is just a full clear with the Warpath. It feels miserable, but it just about gets the job done. I think he has to tank the War Gear in order to do it, though.
Yeah, still takes 5, so all the armor he's gained from that Rover basically gets gobbled up by the War Gear.
But he has a clear board.
Yes.
Which is a huge deal.
Or he can follow up with the Cable right into SI, which then activates it Togwaggle next turn, which looks pretty solid to me. Then he can make maybe a more informed decision on when and how to play this Myra's out.
As he does need to be a little bit afraid of playing Myras. He could just draw all his bombs. He may just draw them all off the top of his deck anyway, though.
Yeah, playing around it. So he can now play Myra's safely.
Got him. And I think for blitzchung at the moment, that's definitely going to be his strongest asset, is the ability to counter-push for lead. Because even with both of those bombs being drawn off the top, which is pretty bad for blitzchung, I believe his Blastmaster Boom still summons 4 boom bots.
That's the important part, right? Because funnily enough, if those bombs going off negated boom, then blitzchung's kind of left hanging next turn.
Unless, of course, he wants to go for a Wrench Caliber lethal right now, but I think the Blastmaster Boom feels like a pretty necessary risk.
Ooh, he's nearly dead, though, if he just plays boom and passes.
How's he?
I mean, he's nearly dead anyway.
Does it ever get better on the next turn?
Well,
like, if he goes Harrison into hero power, what gets better for him next game? That, you know, how is there ever a situation where he's facing less damage? And I guess the consideration really is just, is this the least risky time to play it? And I think that is the case.
Okay, so he does have the Tog available. This is so close.
It's so close.
Either one could just win.
He's just dying. And I think, well, I mean, either one could just die. I think Glory will just die, as it currently stands.
I think from, I think with the potential Leroy draw, it was just as scary for each player, right? But now, I don't even know if there's anything Glory can do.
And this does mean that Glory has to just go for the spell here. No, for the treasure, but without prep, it doesn't even do anything. And blitzchung putting his hands together in prayer, saying, please don't let me die.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to just hope for the best right now, isn't he? Can trade away. There's 4 boom bots and a wrench caliber.
He's got to do it right before the brawl comes down.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, well, the miscreant needs a high five and a pay rise, I think, because he tanked a lot of damage and got the trade-off. 2 damage there. Wrench caliber can put him to 2, which basically puts him in lethal range next turn. I think Wrench Caliber just armor
it's
up,
got to be
play
just
the
Wrench
rover.
Caliber, right?
Yeah, just drop the rover, armor up. You're pushing yourself very far out of range, and Glory needs...
I think he wants to play around the Ziliax by not playing the rover here.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about Ziliax.
Because it could be Snip Snap plus Ziliax in the worst case scenario.
Leroy? Nope.
Those are all terrible. Blood Mage Thalmos can draw a card, and that's his only play, I think, if he goes for SI7 Agent.
But what's he going to draw? The 2 mana?
I don't know.
Tuss doesn't have charge.
And despite having this insane Edwin early on, blitzchung's just coming back again. He's going face every turn with the Elec. It just got there.
No, the card draw was a bomb all along.
This was so sneaky from blitzchung. Like, I didn't even realize, as he was tanking 8 every single turn, that Elec, that Clockwork Goblin, it was chipping face turn after turn, and it really racks up.
It does, and it's because I think, because that scenario happens a lot, right? Van Cleef comes out and it hits face a lot. And normally, the minions, the person who isn't the rogue has, go into Van Cleef, right? But when you realize that Elec plus Goblin is only 2 damage less than a Van Cleef every turn,
it's true.
It's like, and also 2 minions to deal with instead of 1, you start to realize that maybe there is a race potential based on the hand, of course, and maybe going back again, this is no overall judgment and glory, but if we could just rewind time and replay the game, maybe delaying and going for a slightly bigger Van Cleef would have worked out better in some ways, because it would have been that much bigger, would have pushed that much more damage, and although it would have been delayed, maybe it would have been then harder to kill, and then so on, and maybe opened up a few different turns. So very difficult, and I have to keep questioning just these preps for me. I keep seeing prep as just 0 mana proc a combo. It's like, play Wisp. At least it's a 1-1, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been getting pretty unfortunate, I think, for Glory, given that he's one of the few players playing double Abyss and double Sap. Like, it should have been better in the instances we've seen it. But like you said, even just as an activator for +2/+2 on Edwin, it's really not that bad, because it gives you the higher chance of getting these insane Edwins early on. And, you know, like you said, for Glory, if he had waited with the Cable Rat for a turn, he obviously had the 1 in 5 to get an Ethereal Lackey, and also the chance to draw an Eviscerate off the top.
That's true.
To go in combination with the Eviscerate. I'm not even sure if it was right or wrong, because his play with the Edwin, it still very nearly worked out for him.
Yeah, it was a really, really close matchup overall, and a pretty crazy one at that. But let's talk to blitzchung, who ended up taking it. blitzchung, can you hear us?
Yes.
Awesome. So congratulations. That's 2-0 for you this weekend. How's that feeling after not really the best season overall in terms of your score previous to this weekend?
I'm feeling like more relaxed right now, cause earlier I was in a 6-match losing streak.
Yep.
So I was super stressed. I was super stressed, feeling super stressful coming to this week. Like before this week, I wasn't satisfied with so many of my deck choices, and I didn't play well. I made so many stupid mistakes, but I'm feeling better right now.
Awesome. And after just speaking about the weekend as a whole, because going 2-0 is obviously fantastic. After you won the mirror yesterday, were you feeling quite confident now going up against Glory on a rogue with this warrior deck? Because I feel like your primary list is pretty well positioned to take rogue.
Yes, I wouldn't say I'm targeting rogue coming to this week, but I was expecting Glory to play either rogue or mage, so that's why I only brought one. What's that card called? Weapons Project.
Oh,
I only brought one of it, and I expected Brotchell to brought warrior, and that card is not that good in the mirror.
So how did you come to the decisions on the cards that you included? Because this Bomb Warrior is obviously a bit different to what you've been playing in previous weeks. Was it advice of practice partners, or was it your own testing that made you come to this list?
I feel like I just feel like Bone Warrior would be the best one against both of them. Like I was mainly playing Rogue and Hunter earlier, but these two lists are just not optimal against both of them, and I decided to go with Bone Warrior.
Oh, well, it seemed to work out pretty well for you this weekend. So once more, congratulations on the 2-0. Good job, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you.
No problem. So yeah, and I can understand that completely. What blitzchung mentioned a little bit earlier on in that interview is just after going on a 6 losing streak,
Yeah.
I can imagine you start to feel bad. You're like, oh, okay, another week. Just let me win one, just to break the streak, because a lot of anything competitive is a mental game as well. And if you feel you're at the point where you just can't win, that makes it worse. And then the more that goes on, that'll compound. So I'm very happy for blitzchung. He managed to get some wins under his belt and actually get it done.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, for every player, like, it's always the thinking that you always have to stay away from is, of course it happened to me. Why me? Like, I was never going to win this game. I was destined to lose. Because when you get into that mindset, you get into these situations where you freak out. You don't feel comfortable in the games. And also, you're not practicing well if you're in those situations, because just playing Hearthstone for these players is not good enough. I think, as it currently stands, you can't just grind ladder and hope to get up to the peak level of performance. You have to have practice partners established, practice groups, learn your matchups, and figure out what are the key tech cards. And it feels like blitzchung has done that very well with his somewhat unique build of Bone Warrior that's worked out fantastically for him this week.
Yeah, it really has. So blitzchung 2-0s and starts to close a gap and really even up his score for this GM so far. So congratulations to him. Glory had a bit of a rough one today and yesterday, I think. So I think he might have to go back to drawing board and maybe work on a bit more practice for himself. But that is match number 2 done for the day. We've got a feature match coming up. It's going to be Rivius versus Surrender in everyone's favorite matchup. It is the Warrior Mirror. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.